Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. And I can go the other way, I guess. But
simply very many men or
right.
women
Yeah.
can be drawn off by the wrong thing.
Absolutely. And if they had any chance of finding out the secret of his strength, it would be through using that of a pretty woman. The rulers asked Delilah to lure or entice him to show her where his strength came from. Then they sweetened the deal by each one of them offering her 1,100 pieces of silver, a total of 5,500 shekels of silver, and if she would get Samson to tell her secret, his secret, and then pass it on to them. I mean, they were making such an outrageous offer that she couldn't refuse. I mean, at today's prices, this would amount to about, maybe $1 million or more. And as I said, her greed, I think, got the best of her. The love of money is the root of all evil, right? Scripture tells us that. The love of money. Not just money. The love of money. And it was offered her that, again, she can't refuse. They tell her that their aim is not to kill Samson, but to capture him or bind him, and not to torture him or to torture him and to afflict him. She then begins to try to get Samson to tell her the secret to his strength. And it would appear that on 4 different occasions she interrogates him in order to find out his strength. Now, I'm going to pause here and go to my New International Version of the commentary and read here, because Samson is most commonly pictured as a Hulk, a mammoth of incredible size and strength. Okay? You watch all the TV programs, you watch all the pictures that are portrayed of Samson, and he's massive. This commentary goes on, if Samson were a Goliath-type behemoth, then obviously the secret of his strength would be in the size of his muscles. So the Philistines would be foolish to keep trying to overcome him. The Philistine rulers would be even dumber to pay such a price for the obvious, and Delilah would be the mother of all dummies if Samson were a man with 50-inch biceps. It goes on. Samson must have been a relatively ordinary-looking man in size and weight. His strength is not even in his long 7-braided hair. Therefore, his strength is not in the obvious. It's not obvious. What makes him so strong? They want to know. I mean, if it was by looking at him and you could see that he was a mammoth of a man, you could say, well, okay, I can understand him. But that's not obvious to them. I mean, he's no different than anybody else, I see. And it is clear in what transpires, that the Philistines are convinced that Samson's strength lies in supernatural or magical contexts. This is seen in what what Samson offers, or offers the Philistines. It says, in the ancient Near East, certain materials were thought to have magical properties, and in and of themselves, or in the right quantity and combinations. I mean, they were superstitious people. They think that somehow, some way, he's got some magical power that it maybe a 4-leaf clover, right? Something. I don't know. But anyhow, they think there's something magical. But as we know, his strength comes from God. His strength comes from God. Now, in verses 1 through 14, we see that Samson is playful with Delilah. He's playing a game with her. Verse 6 we read, so Delilah said to Samson, tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued. On the first occasion, she simply asked him what the secret of his strength was, and his answer was, if anyone ties me up, or ties me with 7 fresh thongs that have not been dried, I will become as weak as any other man. Yeah, again, the New American Commentary says the fresh thongs, referred to tendons or sinew from an animal freshly slaughtered. The thongs refer to animal intestines that have been dried. These strips of animal intestines, when dried, were used to make bowstrings. When they were dry, they were incredibly strong. When they were green, they were very weak and easily broken. But here Samson says, get the green ones, right? Get the fresh ones, and I can be subdued. Here again, he's toying with her. Now, Samson specifying fresh and dried sinews means that once more he is trivializing his Nazarite vow.
Dead around him.
Yes. Like the fresh jawbone of a donkey in chapter 15, fresh sinews would have been construed as still part of a corpse. This was something that he was not supposed to touch, not supposed to be near, if you will, not come in contact with. And again, these things would have been unclean to him. Samson tells Delilah if she ties him up, or if he's tied up by the 7 thongs, he will become as weak as any other man. What a joke. I can see Samson kind of snickering about this. He's kind of laughing. This is a joke to him. He's been that way through his entire life, right? He likes to make riddles, make jokes of things.
Arrogant.
Arrogant. He's arrogant. Yes, sir. We read in verses 8 through 9. Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh thongs that had been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he snapped the thongs as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. And when Delilah cried out to that the Philistines are upon you, he easily broke these things. Samson probably, had a good laugh about the whole incident. And again, I think he's toying with her. He's playing a game. And after Samson snapped the thongs, Delilah knew that Samson had deceived him. She knew it. Then on her second attempt to uncover his secret, we read in verse 10, then Delilah said to Samson, you have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied. The second time, she is more intent on finding the answer to his strength. She tells Samson that he's made a fool of her, and she knows that he's lied to her. Yet another lie he tells her. In verse 11, he said, if anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man. Another lie.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't help but think, too, how many, whenever people tell lies, they continue to tell lies and they continue to build a web of lies. Then the next thing you know, they're caught in the web. They can't get out.
Stupid trying to tell in the first place.
Yeah. Well, exactly right. But he persists on telling lies to her, toying with her. And, this has happened before, right? Remember the Philistines tied him up? And, or not the Philistines, but the people of Judah tied him up. And then when the Philistines came, he broke them ropes just as easy as he's broken these. In verse 12 we read, so Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Then, with men hidden in the room, she called out, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. Just popped them right off. On the third occasion, you can sense a bit of anger in Delilah's words here. Verse 13 says, Delilah then said to Samson, until now you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied. Still, Samson is not honest with her. Tells her another lie. We read in the last part of verse 13, he replied, if you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric of the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become weak as any other man. So while he was sleeping, Delilah took the 7 braids of his hair, or his head, wove them into the fabric, and tightened it with the pins. Now guess what? He's getting dangerously close to revealing his secret. Each step, he's getting closer and closer.
He's stupid.
Very. Very. He tells her that if she would take the 7 locks of his hair, 7 braids of his hair, and integrate them into the fabric that is being woven into the loom and secure them with a pin, he will become weak as any other man. That sounds pretty ridiculous, doesn't it? Again, I think he's having a little fun here. He's toying with it. But here's the thing that we have to take from this. You can't toy with sin. Sin causes you a whole lot of trouble. When you play around with it, you're going to get burned. Yeah? And this is what's leading up to. We read in verse 14, again she called to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He awoke from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. Well, one of the things I happen to notice about this verse is that that he's asleep. He's not aware of what's going on, to me. I mean, it just seems kind of odd. This person is trying to deceive him, trick him into finding out his strength, and all he does is sleep, like it's no big deal.
Love is blind.
Love is all brawn and no brain.
Yeah, right. But, yeah, that's right. That's right.
How would you tell somebody a secret?
Right.
Especially
He loves
in
her.
a row.
He loves her.
And then each time there's Philistines.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Now we read about how Delilah is persistent with Samson. Of course, she's been persistent all the way up to this point, but she goes on. On the 4th occasion, she made an appeal to his emotions. We read in verse 15, then she said to him, how can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? Yeah. How can you say you love me? You don't tell me the secrets. I can see a little whimper here, okay. This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength. After 3 failed attempts to discover the secret of Samson's strength, Delilah adopts blackmailing tactic of his first wife. Okay. She tells Samson that this is the 3rd time you've made a fool of me. She asserts that his love cannot be genuine if he is not fully committed to her by telling her everything about himself. In all these statements, intimacy is the key. There is no love if there is no sharing the innermost secrets of the heart. Samson was telling her that he loved her, but his heart wasn't. He never shared the secrets of his life. She knows that she is his weakness, so she accuses him of not loving her because he has deceived her 3 different times. But day after day she questions him and begs him to tell her the secret of his strength. We read in verse 16, with such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was tired to death. Oh, you know how it is